All right, and following this for us, our U.S. correspondent, Sherwin Bryce-Pease. Great to have you with us, as always, Sherwin. And you could say this is unprecedented. I mean, there's been a lot of smoke around Trump, but this is unprecedented for not only him, but the nation.
Certainly unprecedented, also given the broad context here, Francis, that we are also within the 2024 presidential cycle. Donald Trump, of course, announcing in November last year that he was a candidate for president in 2024. And subsequently, you've seen a number of Republicans jump into the race. So that is going to be the veneer through which they will argue that this is a politicized effort by the Biden administration, the Department of Justice, despite given the fact that Attorney General Merrick Garland appointed a special independent counsel, a special independent prosecutor to lead this investigation. And it is this special independent prosecutor that has brought this grand jury indictment of some 37 counts that Donald Trump will have to answer to. So essentially what you have here is the rule of law clashing with the politics of this moment. And this is going to play itself out in the months ahead. You hear from certainly Donald Trump's allies and the like that this is a weaponization of the Justice Department. And this is certainly the argument that he's going to be making here as he continues his presidential campaign, but certainly has to also now appear in federal court in Miami on Tuesday.
All right, and Sherwin, you spoke to Professor William Howell from the University of Chicago. Let's just check if we have that clip for us. All right, I'm not hearing anything. I mean, Sherwin, when this first came out, the reports, the documents were being kept in Mar-a-Lago, there wasn't a sense of the seriousness of what could be in those documents. Just now, in this 37 count indictment, just give us a sense of what he's actually charged with.
Super serious stuff, if there's a phrase to be used to describe it, Francis. 31 counts of violating the Espionage Act that prohibits the willful retention of national defense information. Trump is alleged to have retained documents marked top secret that related to the weapons capabilities of the United States and its allies, the United States nuclear program, and potential vulnerabilities of the United States and its allies to military attack. And so what we don't talk a lot about and what we haven't seen in this indictment, which prosecutors might be privy to, is why Donald Trump sought to retain these documents despite months of back and forth between his attorneys and the National Archives and subsequently the investigators leading this probe in terms of their efforts to get these documents returned, right? They asked for the documents to be returned and Trump obfuscated, and that's why you have charges including conspiracy to obstruct justice, tampering with evidence, including withholding and concealing documents from a federal investigation, making false statements. You'll also understand, Francis, that a Walt Nauta, an aide, a body man, as they're describing to the former president, is also facing several charges in relation to this 37-count indictment for essentially aiding and abetting the efforts of the president to conceal and hide these documents, despite the efforts from the National Archives and federal prosecutors to get them back. So a number of serious charges relating to national security of the United States. And let me tell you, I mean, speak to the guys at state security in South Africa, the intelligence service there, and they'll tell you just how serious they are about the top secret information and retaining the government secrets, particularly as it relates to people that are out in the field that might be gathering this intelligence and the vulnerabilities that not viewing these documents in a safe location bring to the fore. Let me also just position this, Francis. Two editorial boards writing opinion pieces in the aftermath of this indictment. The Wall Street Journal, which is the conservative-leaning newspaper here, and the New York Times. So two editorial boards writing two editorials on this. The Wall Street Journal title is "A Destructive Indictment. Do Prosecutors Understand the Forces They Are Unleashing?" Counter that with the New York Times, which is sort of the more progressive liberal newspaper here. quote, Donald Trump should never again be trusted with the nation's secrets. And I think that very much lays out the dichotomy that faces Americans depending on what side of the political divide you find yourself in this country, Francis.
Well, talking about that divide, I mean, we've seen his supporters come out guns blazing, and he has come out guns blazing. But there is concern about some of the violent rhetoric. Tell us about that.
Yeah, violent rhetoric that certainly makes one immediately cast our minds back to what happened on January 6, 2021, while Congress was seeking to certify the electoral victory of Joe Biden. And of course, Donald Trump riling up that crowd, then sending them up to Congress. And we also, those violent scenes play itself out. So that'll be at the fore of many, many people in this country as you hear this rhetoric from the right. Trump's allies have been quite vociferous and quite forceful in their denunciation of this prosecutorial effort, the special counsel's effort led by the Justice Department. They talk a lot of chatter on right-wing social media groups, Francis. A quote from one individual, "It's not going to stop until the bodies start stacking up." Another quote from a Republican lawmaker out of Arizona. A Republican, Andy Biggs, tweeted this: "We have now reached a war phase." Quote, "An eye for an eye." Francis, Carrie Lake, the unsuccessful Trump ally who ran for governor of Arizona in 2022. "If you want to get to President Trump, you're going to have to go through me, and you're going to have to go through the 75 million Americans, essentially the number that voted for Trump in 2020. Adding that Trump voters are card-carrying members of the National Rifle Association, the NRA. So essentially, if you're coming for us, you're going to have to go through Americans that are armed to the teeth. So certainly not mincing their words in terms of how they view this indictment. And one imagines that security outside that Miami District Court on Tuesday is going to be at a premium akin to what we saw in New York City 2 months ago. And of course, Donald Trump, in an unprecedented nature, was first indicted in state court here on those allegations of hush money payments in the 2016 election. So this is not the first time he's been indicted. It's the second time he's been indicted. And Francis, there might be a third and a fourth indictment. There are still other investigations into Donald Trump's conduct as it relates to the January 6th insurrection on the Capitol. And of course, his efforts to overturn the election results in the state of Georgia. A local prosecutor there is looking into the actions of Donald Trump and his allies. So we might just be at the beginning here, Francis.
Sure, some of that rhetoric is just wow. And thank you. On top of everything happening in the United States, our correspondent Sherwin Bryce Pease.